Now back to everybody's favorite middleman, BB.
If you're not watching the show Yellowstone, people, it is time. I finally dove in this week, and I've been binge watching it, and I'm telling you, you know me, when I push you on a TV show, you got to watch this TV show. Yellowstone is one of those shows. Joining me on the WRKO listener line right now is one of the stars, I would argue the star of that show, Luke Grimes. He plays Casey Dutton on Yellowstone. Luke, welcome to Boston. Welcome to WRKO.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Good morning.
So here's what happened, Luke. Like a couple months ago, I had finished a run of some shows. One of them was like Chernobyl, and the bar was so high on shows. So I asked my audience, I said, what's a show I should delve into now? And they threw out a bunch of things, but Yellowstone kept coming up on it. And so it got down to 2 shows, and I'm like, should I, shouldn't I? And I didn't go with Yellowstone. I went with another show, which was so-so. It was okay. Then I find out that you're available for an interview last week, and I start scrambling, and I'm like, man, I got to get caught up. I am loving this show. It is everything that I hoped that it would be. It's like The Godfather meets True Grit meets Wind River. It's all of these things tied up into one.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it, man. And yeah, I have a blast making it and getting these scripts every week and just going on this journey. I feel like an audience member myself half the time. So, yeah, I'm glad you like it, man.
So I'm watching with my wife last night, and I'm only 4 episodes in, actually, on season 1, and my wife says to me, you got to ask him, so I'm going to ask you, because when my wife says do it, I do it. She says, ask him, when he gets the scripts for these things, does he go, oh, man, I'm doing all this now? Because the first 4 episodes, you're up to some shenanigans, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it just keeps going in all these different directions. That's the great thing about the shows. I never know what's going to happen. No one does. It's the least predictable TV show, you know, I've ever seen. And yeah, it's great. From week to week, it's like the most exciting thing to get that script in my mailbox. It's been a blast.
So I had heard a story once. I forget, it was someone like Steve McQueen or something, but when he was in his early stages, he went for a role in a movie. Like, it was like the original Magnificent Seven, and they said, yeah, off the cuff, can you ride a horse? And he's like, yeah, sure. He got the part and then realized, oh my God, I got to learn how to ride a horse. You do a lot of horse riding in this show, obviously. Now, I know you were in the remake of Magnificent Seven. Did you always know how to ride a horse?
No, I did not, and I didn't even learn much for Magnificent Seven because I wasn't even, you know, one of the guys who was supposed to be good on a horse. So I kind of came into it pretty green, but you know, I was honest with them, and I didn't pretend that I could do something I couldn't. And what was good was that they gave me every opportunity to learn. So before I ever started, I had kind of an open door policy at an equestrian center in LA, and I could go as many times as I wanted, and I took advantage of that. You know, by the time that we showed up on set and had to start doing some of the horse work, I was at least comfortable enough and to do what was required for the screen. And then, you know, now in season 3, you know, I've been on a horse so much and around all these wranglers and cowboys and up here in this world and, you know, Utah and Montana, and I just kind of soaked up the culture enough that I'm starting to feel even more comfortable. Now, again, it's not something I did since I was little, so I'm no real cowboy, but I feel like I'm good enough to play one on TV at least.
Take it from I grew up around horses in central Massachusetts, but I don't ride them, but I know people that do. You look like you've ridden a horse. So A, take the compliment. B, having been around horses but not loving riding them, I know that these things are unpredictable. In shooting the show, have there been issues with these things at any point? Have you been like, whoa, over my head here?
Yeah, there's been some close calls, and you know, obviously there's people whose job it is on the set to keep everybody safe and stuff like that. But like you said, it's a huge animal with a mind of its own, and you know, they get spooked by things. Every once in a while, you'll be walking through a field and it'll think it sees a snake or whatever it sees and kind of jump on you a little bit. But, you know, you just try to be aware of that. You just try to, you know, the biggest thing is just being aware at all times that something could go wrong and just, you know, but also staying calm so as not to freak the horse out. It's, that's been one of the challenges of learning, is just kind of like being something on its back that it wants on there, you know?
Yeah.
They're very sensitive.
I read an interview, I think it was in the LA Times of all things, that said you had prepared for season 2 by going back and rewatching The Godfathers because the Dutton family is very much like the Corleone family, if you've seen any of Yellowstone. So, A, is that true? B, in preparing for season 1, is there any like Westerns that you went back to watch to say, okay, I want to kind of get an idea how John Wayne might have done it or guys like that? Did you do anything like that?
So for season 1, I thought, the most important things for me to kind of portray correctly were, the Navy SEAL stuff and the cowboy stuff. And the Navy SEAL stuff I kind of had a leg up on because I'd played one in American Sniper, and I talked to a lot of real SEALs and, done some of the like sort of emotional prep already for that. Then, once I got here, it was like doing some gun work, brushing up on stuff like that so that I knew how to move and to kind of be convincing. And then with the cowboy stuff, I wanted to read a lot of books written by horsemen, guys who train horses and get into the psyche of, that way of life. So I read Buck Brannaman's book and a few others and just kind of, tried to start to feel that lingo and the way that they talk around training horses and stuff like that. So, and then, season 2, I guess, The Godfather thing was something we talked about, and I just love those movies anyway. I would have watched them no matter what, and we wanted to keep this show having its own identity. I think The Godfather was kind of a starting point for the relationship between sort of Casey and John, and how the plan in John's mind is to hand over the reins to Casey, but in the case of this show, it doesn't always go as planned.
So you mentioned American Sniper. I got to ask you, Luke Grimes, star of the hit TV show Yellowstone, as a huge Clint Eastwood fan, which I am. Obviously, you were an American Sniper, but I also know that Kevin Costner was in an extremely underrated Clint Eastwood movie, which was called A Perfect World. I love that movie. What I'm wondering is if there's ever any downtime on the set and you and Costner are just sort of sitting there having a beverage or whatever, do you guys start swapping Clint Eastwood stories?
It's come up that we both worked with him. The funny thing is Clint and Kevin both have the same stand-in and have for years. And he's on our show right now, and I met that stand-in on American Sniper. So he's kind of been a funny kind of buffer about, those kinds of things and those stories. It's pretty cool to have worked with both of these guys, both legends in their own right. And obviously working with Clint was one of the highlights of my career, and working with Kevin too. So pretty awesome kind of sandwich to be in the middle of there.
When we're done with this interview, you got to get me the phone number of that stand-in guy. I want to talk to that guy.
Yeah, he's got stories for sure.
So Kelly Riley's in the show too. She plays your sister, obviously, and she's a tour de force to be sure. But I'm going to ask you a similar question. You were in Magnificent Seven with Denzel. She was in Flight with Denzel. Do you two swap Denzel stories?
The short answer is yes. That's about all I can say, I think.
Oh, now that's as intriguing an answer as I've ever heard. The short answer is yes, but man, do I want more on that. Come on, Luke.
Well, Denzel is a force, and I don't think you could work with that guy without having some stories. He's one of the greatest actors that ever walked the planet. And, with that sort of intensity of work comes some interesting moments, and it's a very dynamic person.
If I told you, for those that don't know, your career, which is phenomenal considering what a young man you are, but, American Sniper, 50 Shades of Grey, True Blood, now you're in Yellowstone. If I told you at the time you signed on to 50 Shades of Grey that in a couple of years you'd be starring in a hit TV Western, would you have believed it?
Yeah, if you at the beginning of my career would have told me I was starting a Western, I would have believed it. I wouldn't have believed that I would have been in 50 Shades of Grey, though. I probably that's the one that's sort of the ugly duckling, I think. I mean, not that I have any problem with those movies. I didn't see that coming.
When that happened, did you, to your parents, to your buddies, et cetera, when you say, look, I'm in, I'm going to be in 50 Shades of Grey, were they busting you? Were like, this is awesome? Do they still bust you? What was the word on that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who I was talking to. If it's a female member of my family, they were probably, excited about it. think my friends gave me a hard time. The thing was, my responsibility level on those movies was so low. I think I only worked a couple days on each of them, and it ended up being a good little business career move.
Oh, I bet.
I wouldn't have wanted to be in Jamie's shoes, just because what a life-changing, overnight, kind of crazy whirlwind thing that I don't think at that time I would have been prepared for. But yeah, my job's pretty easy on them, filled in and out.
I've held you too long already, but can I tell you a quick 50 Shades story? I think it'll make you laugh.
Sure.
So my wife goes to see 50 Shades of Grey with a couple of her friends, and my mother-in-law says, "Oh, I'd love to go to the movies." Now, she'd never read the book. She didn't know anything. My wife was like, "Oh, this could be awkward." As they're sitting there watching the movie, my mother-in-law starts asking my wife questions. Now, I'm going to try and get it. "Oh, what do they mean by tossing the salad, honey?" And my wife is getting increasingly uncomfortable and just like, "Mom, stop talking to me."
Oh, goodness. Yeah, I always found it pretty interesting, the demographic of that movie. We'd be shooting and there'd be younger girls, kind of standing around waiting to meet people, and I just didn't understand what was in it for them. I understand the housewives' interest in it, but it really hit a broad range.
Last question for you, and it's been a real pleasure having you. I appreciate your time. I read somewhere that Liam Neeson on the set of Taken 2 got you to quit smoking. Is that true? And if so, how did he do it?
He just recommended a book to me that really helped, and I quit for a year because of that book. He would go around with toothpicks, and I said, "Did you smoke?" And he said, "Yeah," and this book helped me. So I ended up reading the book anyway. Long story short, quit for a year, had to smoke for a movie. It was like, it was pretty easy to quit the first time. Smoked for that movie and smoked for 6 more years. And then actually quit right before season 2 of Yellowstone for good now. It's been about a year and a half. So finally, those are gone.
Well, keep up the quitting on the smoking and keep up the phenomenal work on Yellowstone. I'll be through season 2 by Sunday, I guarantee you, because me and my wife are going to do about 4 episodes tonight, and we're just going to keep plowing because it's that good. So congratulations on that.
Awesome, man. I'm glad you're enjoying it. Thanks so much for having me.
Luke Grimes, he plays Casey Dutton on Yellowstone. If you haven't seen it or checked it out yet, please do. It's Paramount Television that does it. I get it right on demand if you have Comcast. We got to take a break. We're way over time. It's VB. You're in the middle on AM 680 WRKO.
VB in the middle. WRKO.